Today we'll be going over the Dominaria United spoilers. I don't know why I said that so weirdly. I wanted to do it, and I haven't quite gotten to it yet, or I guess I've been kind of busy, sort of prioritizing other things, so what better time than now? Let's go through it. There's some really cool stuff. I'm curious what I'll be picking and choosing, and we'll be interested in seeing where that goes. Anyways, let's get into it. First card is the Raven Man. Colorless and a black for a legendary creature, human wizard. With at the beginning of each end step, if your player discarded a card this turn, create a 1/1 black bird creature token with flying. This creature can't be blocked. 3 and a black tap. Each opponent discards a card. Activate only at sorcery. 2/1. Now, as per usual, I'm only going to be talking about in context of Commander. Maybe, just like a little bit maybe standard, but for the most part, and also add that sort of weird maybe to explore as well, or pioneer, because I sometimes like playing that. This card I think is pretty okay. I don't know what kind of deck really wants to play this card, although you can play something like I guess a mono black sort of discard control kind of deck, where like you just grind out your opponent. I know they released the Liliana, the new Lily, not new, but like they released old Lily at her best recently in this set. I'm trying to add all the caveats to it to correct myself. And it might curve really nicely with this, right? Like you play the Raven Man, then you play Lily, and then you activate Raven Man and activate Lily. Like you just completely strip their hands. Yeah, this card's pretty nice. And even in Commander, like this is a 4-mana not draw card, but like each opponent discards a card. So like it's basically card advantage. If you have a way to just sort of fill your hand and deplete your opponent of resources, like this is pretty solid. Now it does have this whole tap thing, but I think generally if you're tapping this dude in Commander, I'm thinking you're already at your wit's end because you don't have anything else to do, because 4 mana at sorcery speed is a lot. That's a lot. I don't know. But other than that, it's a pretty solid card. I honestly might make a deck around. I wouldn't want to say I will, because who knows if I will or not. But like having a 2-drop as in the command zone is so good. It feels so good. And one thing I like about Plarg, if anyone who's seen my Plarg gameplay recently, is like having a 2-drop that also is under the radar means it just goes undetected so much. It's so good. And I feel like this is sort of in the same build. And I think this is kind of like Plarg in that sense, where it's like a 2-mana value commander that doesn't really do too much for the win con. So it's like for sure going to go under the radar. But yeah, it's a sweet card. Creating the 1/1's a little weird because I don't know what you really do with them. Maybe you can just like, I don't know, maybe there's some like attack triggering thing you can do. It can occasionally trigger off an opponent's discards, like they have way discard cards in their hand. The one thing I do like about this card though is there's like, I don't know, there's something to be said about like not cosplaying, but like, you know, some decks have a theme around them, like, oh, this is my Game of Thrones deck or something like that, right? This sort of reminds me, and I've, you know, kind of telling what I've been watching recently, of the Sandman, like him and his ravens. This is maybe the Sandman sort of theme deck can go with this. I don't know. It's cool. I like the idea. Anyways, let me know what y'all think about the comments below. Are you playing this card? Are you playing him? I don't know. I might be playing him. Next card is Cutdown, a black for an instant with destroy target creature with total power and toughness 5 or less. All right, kids. This is for sure like not dress down. I don't know why I said dress down. Like Fatal Push at Home. This is a 1-mana kill spell in black, which is pretty cool. And maybe there's like, I don't know, I feel like some creatures are getting more stronger nowadays, but like this seems pretty good. Like this is like I don't want to say iconic, but like this is like getting up there to like playing more iconic 1-drop kill spells. Fatal Push is pretty close, pretty good. I think one of the most strongest 1-mana kill spells, and this is like, I think pretty close. Now you're probably not going to kill anything that's like 3 mana or up. Sometimes you can, and this is in context of standard. But the time that you do, it's like gonna feel really good. Like 1 black at instant speed, oof, not too much can compete with that. Especially if you're playing against like aggro decks. Like if you're playing against aggro decks and this is in your hand, oh, absolute monstrous. If you're playing against more controlling decks, this is probably gonna need to be pitched somehow. And I can see why like people won't play it, just because like for 1 more extra mana, you can probably get something a little less conditional. But even then, it's like if you're playing like a more high top curve deck, usually you'll have a way to pitch this card, right? Like if you're playing in black, you have ways to like, you're gonna need to discard your I don't know, discard a card sometimes, right? Especially with the new Lily coming out, this is probably good there. In Commander, oh for sure, this is probably an auto include. I think Fatal Push is an auto include. I think in some decks, most decks. I know we have got like Deadly Relic, which can just like straight out exile something, but think of all of the just straight up value engines we just play on board. Like we've got Collector Oof, we have Dark Confidant. I don't want to kill the Dockside Extortionist. What other like 2-mana cards we have? A bunch of commanders. It doesn't kill all the 2/4s. A lot of commanders are 2/4s nowadays. But like, think of all the 2/2s and stuff like that. Like this just gets rid of them for 1 mana. It's pretty strong. Now, I'm actually thinking of it more now, and it's like, okay, but for 1 more extra mana, and honestly, with the amount of like treasures and stuff going around, 1 more extra mana isn't that much. Like you just play something a little stronger or less conditional, and you can just straight out kill it without like worrying about how its mana value. Like imagine trying to, oh wait, this actually does kill Urza. This actually does kill Urza. I'm like, what else can you kill with it? Kills Prosper. I think a nice list of like things that this will kill would be nice, but even then it's like for 1 more extra mana you could probably kill Prosper, but you also kill like, I don't know what else you kill, like Elder Garderoth, right, for just 1 extra mana. I think it'd be worth playing. I don't know, I'm kind of down a little less on this card now because thinking about it, but it feels good, it looks good, but like when you think about it, on paper it seems pretty good, but like when you think about it, it's just like there's a lot of stuff that have like combined toughness, especially nowadays where like creatures are getting stronger, where like power and toughness 5 or less just seems to like only kill 1 or 2 drops. And I think for the most time you want to be able to kill most things most of the time, right? Especially when people are like comboing things off in context of commander anyways. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is good. Maybe I have to rethink this later, but yeah, cool card. Next card is Sphinx of Clear Skies. 3 and a blue for a creature. Sphinx with flying, ward 2, and domain. Whenever Sphinx of the Clear Skies deals combat damage to a player, reveal top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic lands you control. On opponent's surprises in 2 piles, put 1 pile into your hand, other in the graveyard. Okay, so this is fact or fiction, which is kind of weird though, right? Because an opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. Okay, so at least you get a card in the case that you're playing like mono blue Sphinx of the Clear Skies. I'm like, wait a minute. If this is domain, how is this gonna work if you play mono blue? So you do get at least a card. I was like, is this a feel bad when you don't have any other colors with your deck? But like it just gets increasingly better when you do have other colors. I think this is a cool play design, or I guess card design. For 5 mana to draw a card on each combat is okay. I think it's pretty decent. It gets a lot better when you do have more colors. With the ward 2 though, also that's pretty strong. I like this card. I think this card is neat. I think for standard, it's okay. I could see it as like being a game ender because it has the ward, or game finisher because it has ward. But also it's sorcery speed. I don't know what decks people are playing nowadays too much. Maybe it's too high just because there's a lot of like black being played, and black is known for killing creatures really nicely. Rakdos is just super good. Maybe this isn't played too much. Although I'm not sure if this is okay. This is DMU. This isn't like a commander card. I don't know. I don't know if this is like good in standard, but I don't think it's too strong in commander either. I think this card becomes a lot stronger in like Unesh decks, but other than that, it's kind of like a meh card. Like I could see some people playing it just for its effect and like trying to protect it, because then it gets kind of bonkers, because then you're getting like a factor fiction every attack. Like imagine playing like imagine your most iconic spells, and then imagine casting them. Like, when I say iconic spells, I mean imagine like any particular spell that's like strong, it's like card draw engine. Now imagine casting it once or twice a game, like 3 times maybe, just sitting on board and just giving that much value. This is like a pretty good value engine. Granted, it is, I guess most creatures are like value engines just stapled onto a permanent. There's like spells stapled onto permanent. And I think that's where Magic is probably been headed towards for the last 2 years now or so. So this probably isn't too crazy. I'm thinking not too good in standard, but also like mediocre in commander. I would probably say it here and there. Yavamaya, Steel Crusher, 1 in a red for a creature ape warrior with enlist. Those are not familiar with enlist, as a creature attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. When you do, add its power to its creatures until end of turn. Or also, pay 1 generic, sacrifice Yavamaya, Steel Crusher, destroy target artifact 2/2. I'm a big fan of all of the red creatures with some sort of artifact destruction on them. It just feels really efficient to like get in to destroy something, and then also when a board wipe comes, you just like sack it and like also destroy something else. Like it feels really good. I guess that's why I like playing a lot of like permanent based removal, because it's just like it feels really efficient. This also reminds me of Gorilla Shaman, for those of you who played that, where it's just like artifact destruction. This is sort of like another incarnation of that. This card seems pretty neat. I don't know how you can play it in how you would play it in, I guess, standard. I don't know if there's too much artifacts in standard. I guess there is, because Yavamaya came out a little bit, but it does get in for some damage. Maybe it's a sideboard card, because it has enlist. It means like adding 2 extra power to the board by itself, but also just like it can enlist creatures itself. So having 2 toughness, I don't know, maybe not too good in standard, actually, I can think of it. But I think in commander, this is probably fine. It is like a 3 mana destroy target artifact spell, which is kind of below rate, but enlist is pretty nice. And also having the ability to swing for some damage, I think it's pretty decent. Also, think of it this way, where like you're putting in an investment for a card that can like potentially get in for some chip damage, but also when someone does try to bolt the board or have like a super, someone's playing an artifact deck, you basically are paying later once you invested 1 mana to destroy that artifact or an artifact that deck plays. I like thinking of it that way personally. I like getting in for like those small or playing really tightly, and this sort of fits that bill. I think it's a pretty sweet card. I think it's pretty, not too strong probably, but I think it's pretty sweet. Same sort of thing coming here. We have Semiherbalist. 1 and a white for creature human cleric. Whenever Semiherbalist becomes tapped, you gain 1 life and scry 1, 2/1. Okay, funny story. I was gonna call this like the white Dark Confidant, but then I was like, listen, if this thing scried for like 3 or something when it tapped and it was like rare or something like that, I would totally play it. But as it stands right now, like I think it's a okay sort of value creature in like common. You can crew a vehicle, gain a life, and scry 1, which is I think pretty decent. I like the idea of like white getting more of this like card selection, especially for like more aggro decks where like they need to keep up the pressure, and like making sure you filter your cards is going to do that really nicely for you. And it sort of belongs in that sort of line of thought. I think this card is really sweet. I don't have a deck that would play this, or I don't know of a deck that would play this. Like, I really like this card. This card is pretty, like, gain a life, scry 1. I'm not gonna say it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. Getting Argosy of Ogma vibes here. Just like gain a life and do something. I think it's pretty cool thing to do for white. I think it's a reason to play white, is like having a lot of incidental life gain, where before like life gain was the payoff. Now it's just like life gain is more incidental, but also it has another effect. That's probably what you want to do, right? With white. I know like black has a lot of life gain, and black does tend to have more ways to pay off with the life gain, especially when all of its cards are like costed more appropriately with life in sort of the back of the thought. We're like, okay, this card costs more life, so it costs 1 less mana. Like in white, it costs 3 mana or whatever, more mana than it would cost in black, but also it's not costed rightly, right? It's just like white gets the life, but like don't really have much to use it with. So I think this is a cool way to add more life gain cards in. I think it's pretty sweet. Threats Undetected. 2 and a green for a sorcery with search your library for up to 4 creature cards with different powers and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, shuffle the chosen cards into your library and put the rest into your hand. This is a dope card. I think there's 2 or 3 other cards like this that sort of either get 2 different cards with different names, and there's one that gets cards with different, 2 different lands, I think it is. I forgot totally. But I think this is like one of those long-term cycles, and I think this is pretty sweet. Someone in the Reddit comment section was like, imagine casting Opposition Agent with this. Oh, you'd have a field day. Oh my goodness. An opponent chooses. So not only do you control the person who's searching if you have Opposition Agent. No, this doesn't really matter in context of the card review. But like, you Opposition Agent, you select their best creatures, then you cast them, do something nasty with them, and then just like, I don't know. I mean, okay, I was thinking that incorrectly. So, assuming no other effects are happening currently, you just Opposition Agent them. I guess it doesn't even matter to Opposition Agent. I guess Opposition doesn't matter, because then you get the creatures that they search for. So just like, I don't know. Opposition Agent is good. Okay, let's get to the card. So that's Undetected by itself. Is a pretty decent card, right? It's 3 mana at sorcery speed, mind you, but you get 2 of your, I guess, top 4 creatures. You're probably the worst of your best 4 creatures in your deck, which isn't that bad. And if you have like a lot of consistency, you just get 2 creatures that you want to get for a certain effect, which is really good. I like this card a lot. I think it's pretty sweet. Now, unlike the other cards, I think the blue ones mostly, they're instant speed. This will probably cost you a turn-ish, but also it's like pretty foretelling of like what you're going to do. because your opponents do reveal. There's some cards that just like don't have a lot of like same effects elsewhere. Like you're not gonna get 2 other dock sides if you really want mana. So like it's really going to be hard for some decks to sort of get what they want because some effects are just so rare. But on the flip end, there are a lot of like, this is one of those cards that's probably just like, oh, you know what, this doesn't go to your graveyard, this just goes straight into your library afterwards. Okay, so this isn't like a, you know, fake your choice sort of, your opponent are just gonna get whatever they want. This is actually just like your opponents are gonna get the best, I guess, 2 of 4 cards. Okay, I don't know if that changes the way I think of it though. Like it's still like a good creature tutor. If you have a high consistency of particular effect in your deck, you get those cards, you're probably gonna get the effect you want, and you don't have to make a comment about it. So you're probably gonna get what you want, because not everyone's gonna think of your deck in the same way, unless it's like a EDH deck where like most, or CEDH deck where like most cards are sort of known to do a certain thing. I don't know, this is a good card. I think this is definitely a good card. I'm just thinking of ways to use it properly, especially with the type of effect that this does, because now it's like, it's not really, it's not putting things in your graveyard. So there's like, it's harder for people to abuse it, I think. I don't know. Anyways, let me know what y'all think about this comment below. I am interested in seeing what you guys have to say. Golden Argosy? Argosy? I don't know. Argussy? I don't know. Don't mind me. Golden Argosy. Apparently it's a real word. So legendary artifact vehicle, when Golden Argosy. Exile attacks. Oh gosh, I have to restart that. I'm sorry. Maybe it's too late in the day. I don't know. So Golden Argosy is a 4-mana artifact, legendary artifact vehicle with whenever Golden Argosy attacks, exile each creature that crewed it this turn. Return it to them battlefield tapped under the beginning controller at the beginning of the next end step. Crew 1, 3/6. Jeez, I butchered that so hard. This is a sweet card though. This is probably like Brago level of value. The worst part is it has to like wait a whole turn, but like any creature can basically crew this, and like you're just gonna get straight up value, and it's got a big butt. Oh, that butt. This is dope. This is dope. I think this is like, oh, I don't know. How do you abuse this? I mean, how do you not abuse this, really? This is basically just like, I want to say it's basically like a Panharmonicon, just because for creatures, because any creature can basically crew this. It's literally crew 1. You crew the whole thing, they come back tapped, so you're gonna be a little vulnerable, but like the ETB is what you're really looking for. And this is just so repeatable. It doesn't have flying, so like if people do have like 6 power on board, they're probably gonna want to smash in with this. But also that just means like you're playing a sort of like a weird sort of roundabout removal spell, because listen, you want to stop this card from hitting, because this is so much value. It's so good. I played against a good number of Brago decks, and stopping the Brago doing Brago things is gonna put them back a lot, because their whole deck is sort of based around Brago. Yeah, stopping ETB effects, stopping the Panharmonicon and sort of things like that is gonna severely slow them. Who would have thought? This is a good card though. This is super good. I'm just thinking of decks to put this in. I mean any ETB deck, right? Do you play this in Brago? Probably not. Any ETB deck that revolves around creatures, how about that? This is for sure an auto include, for sure. Also, I don't know why, is that boat flying, or is it just like, it feels like it's blurry at the bottom, the back of it, but also looks like there's wind coming through it. So it's like, is it flying? Oh my gosh, you know what this looks like? Oh, this would be a good candidate for like a Wind Waker based deck, because this is like the boat. I don't know anything, okay? Next card is Shanna, the Purifying Blade, legendary creature, human warrior with lifelink. At the end of your end step, if you may pay X. If you do, draw X. X can't be greater than the amount of life you gain this turn, 3/3. This is a really strong card. I think if you wanted to make a life gain CEDH commander, this is like the commander you go to. It's so good, right? So for sure you're drawing at least 3 cards, because you paid 3 mana to get this out, and it has lifelink, and when it swings you can gain 3 life until you can draw 3. Pretty good. It is at the beginning of your end step, so like it's only during your turn, and you do have to tap out for it, so it's gonna feel like more of a tap out control deck, which I think is actually kind of interesting. Maybe you don't have to think of it that way, but like if you're gaining life at sorcery speed because you have to activate this card, this triggers at the end step, what kind of deck do you play? Is this just like a stacks deck? Which is, I don't know, it's not weird because it isn't like the stacks colors, but like, oof, what kind of CEDH deck would want this? I'm super interested though, because people for a long time have seen like life gain decks as like pretty meh, and like this is pretty good as a life gain commander. So just for context, like drawing 3 in Magic and like in blue, which is like the drawing color, is usually about I think 5 mana to draw 3 cards, and this is drawing 1 card for 1 mana. Pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh geez, this video is gonna be pretty long. I might cut this out or cut this video into separate parts. Yeah, this is a dope card. So this is for sure gonna be good in EDH. It's just generic good value commander, and there's also like a lot of just time to be able to interact with this too, because that's summoning sickness. So it's like it's pretty fair for a value commander. But for standard, how do you play this? Just like aggro. It refills your hand. I think it'd be good for an aggro deck. Maybe you add it into the Angels deck, like Bant Angels or something like that for Shanna. That could be neat. Yeah, this is like just a generic good card. Shanna had heard Sisei's legend all her life. Now it was time to forge her own. Oh, is she like Sisei's daughter or one of Sisei's descendants? I'm not sure if Sisei's dead yet, but spoiler, I don't know. That's a question. I don't know. That's why I'm questioning. Interesting. Chaotic Transformation. 5 in red for a sorcery with exile up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 creature, up to 1 enchantment, up to 1 planeswalker, and up to 1 land. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller reveals top card of the library until the reveal card shares the land type with it. Put it onto the battlefield, then it's shuffled. Wait, what? Its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a card that shares a land type with it? Okay, it's a card type. I'm sorry. I was reading the scryfall text. I'm just like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. That's just straight up like 6 mana, exile a bunch of cards. Like that's kind of OP. With like no downside in red. Like a really strong Chaos Warp. But this is a card that shares a type with it. So, I mean, this is par for the course, right? For red. I think this is particularly strong in like decks that want Divergent combos. This is probably like Divergent number 3 or something like that. I don't know how many of those we have, which is like kind of basically a weird polymorph. If you have like 1 other enchantment in your deck or ways to make enchantment tokens, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist actually. What's a common artifacts? If you have like 1 artifact in your deck and you have a lot of artifact generators, like you exile the artifact and then you get that 1 artifact in your deck basically. That's what this kind of does. In a pinch, which I think I've used a lot more than not, Indomitable Creativity. In a pinch, it just straight up destroys stuff in red. This just exiles stuff in red, which is pretty nice, especially for like Commander, where like red is so bad at like getting rid of certain things. Like sometimes you just need to like give them something worse, and this does that. The one interesting thing I think about this card is the fact that it exiles enchantments just straight up. Like that's a red thing now, which is interesting too, because like I felt like some card types had some weird protection against certain colors, but now